Coming up Sunday night on The Attorney is going to be joined by Josh Wright of the firm Hollis Wright. Before folks hit the road for the busy summer travel season, some important tips they need to know to keep safe. Huh?
Yeah, we're going to have a show related to travel issues, how to keep yourself safe, how to find the right hotel in the right area with the right protections that you need while you're at that hotel. Right. We're also going to be talking about cruise ships. And what to do if you're on a cruise ship, and even if you go camping, some of the issues you need to at least take into context and consideration before you book that travel.
Yeah, pool safety as well. Also, insurance. There are some insurance options that I didn't know about.
No question. There are insurance options that will protect you as gap fillers to the extent that you don't have insurance already for things like luggage, for lost property, for damage to your vehicle, etc.
Yeah, we want everybody to have a great, safe summer season. This show will help you do that. Be sure and tune in Sunday night right after the news.
Car crash cases, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts. The attorneys with Josh Wright from the law firm of Hollis Wright and host David Lamb.
Hello and welcome into The Attorneys. We appreciate you spending your Sunday evening with us. For the next half hour, we're going to talk about a topic that is really going to be helpful to you as this vacation season, the summer really kicks off and gets underway. Information tonight that can save you a lot of headaches and heartaches. Super informational. Looking forward to this conversation. Would love to have you be a part. The way that you can join the conversation, you'll see at the bottom of the screen ways you can call, text, email, get in touch with us. We'll pass your questions along to our panel of experts led by Josh Wright of the firm Hollis Wright. Good to see you, sir.
You too. I hope you had another great week.
Did indeed.
You know, we're going to be talking about a great topic today, travel. And kind of travel-related insurance issues, travel-related accident-related issues, and things that people can do to protect themselves when they are traveling. You know, one of the statistics in kind of preparing for the show that I found really astounding is 78% of the people that are going to travel during Memorial Day, during the summer season, and during the 4th of July will have no insurance for a lot of the things they do when they travel. So we're going to be talking about some of the tricks of the trade. When we do shows like this, I love to bring on this maverick right here, who's been on the show a couple times, one of our newer lawyers that's been with us for many months now, Drew McNutt, and we're happy to have you on. And Drew has really gotten up to speed on this stuff and is prepared to talk about these things, and I think actually handle one of these cases right now.
That's right, Josh.
So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely,
It's
absolutely.
good to be back.
Let's kind of get this thing started. Let's talk in general terms about this topic. Give us just kind of an overview of what we're talking about and why this is kind of an important topic during this travel season.
Well, as you know, we're coming up on the summer, Memorial Day, 4th of July holiday. People do a lot of traveling. They go to amusement parks, cruises, go to your state parks, your national parks. And the show is just sort of going to be about various issues that people have encountered over the years that we've seen that sort of will help people coming up on the summer.
Talk a little bit about common carriers and maybe a heightened duty that those folks have and how that applies to some of the stuff that we do during the summer.
Okay. Oftentimes when you're traveling, you're going to pay somebody to take you somewhere, whether it's a plane, a train, a bus, a cruise ship, things like that. And those are what we commonly refer to as common carriers. And common carriers have a higher standard of care because you are paying them to transport you. Whereas if, say for a car accident, it's reasonable, prudent person. What would a reasonably prudent person have done? In a common carrier scenario, that standard is heightened. Basically, there's a pretty tough standard that whenever you take money from somebody and agree to transport them, that you have to abide by.
You know, and David, one of the things that we often see is when somebody's on a cruise ship, somebody's on a bus, and there's an accident, you know, there are a lot of rules and guidelines of where and how and what notice you may have to provide to those groups in order to bring a suit. And so oftentimes it's a good idea, if you've been in those types of accidents or had an issue on a cruise ship, you want to get with counsel that understands that law, that knows how to properly pursue those claims. Sometimes they don't amount to claims. Sometimes it's just a matter of working with the insurance company for a common carrier, working with the insurance company for a cruise ship to evaluate and get resolved a claim. But there are some tricks of the trade that people need to understand.
What about amusement parks? We've got one in our backyard. Yep. Six Flags is very popular. A lot of folks from this area go to Disney World. Common carriers, are amusement parks common carriers?
It depends on where it is. The states are split. Some states treat them as common carriers and hold them to that higher standard, whereas other states treat them as basically an everyday premises that you would go into, and you're back to that reasonable, prudent amusement park standard.
I used to have a rule in my life when we would see, especially with my kids, on a trip somewhere, you'd see one of those parks they pop up in a parking lot. My kids would want to go to those. My rule was any amusement park that is taken apart and put back together more days than there are in the year, I'm not riding on those rides, right? And of course that's tongue in cheek and funny, but the net is this. Amusement parks often have significant serious injuries, and a lot of times they are very serious injuries. Amusement parks generally, depending on the area, like Drew was saying that they have certain obligations and responsibilities to make sure that they are maintaining their equipment, making sure that their equipment is tested, that it complies with certain state and federal regulations. And so, if you ever are injured on an amusement ride, you have to get with counsel that understands that law, because it is a complicated area of the law. And to make sure that you're properly protected, there may be very quick statute of limitations in some of those cases, and there may be obligations and responsibilities to put even amusement parks on notice before you ever bring suit, because sometimes they are funded by and operated by municipalities, county entities, or even state entities. So it's a complicated area of the law we don't need to get in today, and hopefully nobody ever has that problem that watches this show. But if they do, just remember that you're going to need to get with counsel.
Got a question here about hotels and how to stay safe at hotels. As we hit the road, everyone's going to be staying at places, all sorts of different places. What is convenient online is how you can find someplace anywhere. But it is possible. I don't know if you've ever had this, but a place looks a whole lot better online, that picture, than what you see when you drive up. So what sort of tips can you give us how to stay safe as you travel in the hotels that you choose along the way?
A lot of it is common sense type stuff. If you're going to a new area, and this is something I've done when I've traveled, is Google has an awesome thing called Street View. If you don't know the area you're going into, just Google the hotel, do Street View, see what's around it, see what it looks like, that sort of thing. Basically, you can do a drive-by through the neighborhood from your computer.
And with Google, you'll see the actual hotel. You won't see the glossy they put up, right?
You will see the actual hotel and the surrounding buildings and the surrounding neighborhood. Another thing you can do is, once you're there, a way to sort of let everybody know that, or sort of show that everybody that somebody's in the room, always leave your do not disturb sign on the door. It gives people the impression that somebody's inside. As far as protecting your belongings, most hotels now have safes. Make sure you change they have a protocol for how to change the combination to get into the safe and that sort of thing.
There are certain obligations too that hotels owe to you if property is stolen from your room. Let's back up just a little bit. Hotels have changed a lot over the years. There are some very high-profile cases that we probably all have heard over the years about how a mom and a daughter were murdered in a hotel room many years ago, and it changed kind of the way that our federal laws address hotels. Now, when you walk in your hotel room, it's sometimes almost an annoyance to try and hold your hotel door open while you're bringing your stuff in it, because it wants to self-close. Right. There's a reason it self-closes. It self-closes so that it locks, so that it doesn't stay open and somebody can walk right in. And those doors self-lock from the outside, so you can walk out from the inside, but the outside they self-lock. And there are little things like that, and so those self-locking doors, if they don't have that, that's a problem. That's a red flag for sure. You have chains you can put on doors. You can have the automatic locks that you can put on from the inside that have a further bolt lock on top of the door that's already self-locked. And because of those things, hotels generally have a responsibility to protect certain forms of property for you. However, they may only be obligated to protect you up to $500 to $750, depending on the area, the municipality you're in, the state that you're in, etc. Now, I know we're about to get a break. When we come back, I want to continue on some of the hotel issues, because there are some things you can do to protect yourself.
That'd be helpful.
Related to parking and security and those things. Let's talk about that.
And
stuff.
even choosing the hotel, hopefully.
Absolutely.
So some good stuff. Would love to have you be a part of the conversation. Call, text, email your question as you hit the road. Maybe something you've always wanted to know. How to be safe as you travel over this the holiday and the summer season. The topic of conversation tonight right here on The Attorney. Stay tuned. We're coming right back.
I'm Carter Clay with the law firm of Hollis, Wright. Thanks for watching The Attorneys on WVTM 13. Now we hope you, a friend, or a loved one never need legal counsel for a case. But if you do, the goal of this show is simple: to provide answers and legal counsel when you need it the most. Your call to the show is free, so if you have questions specific to this show or related to other specific legal matters, call, email, or text us to talk with one of our lawyers. You can also follow us on Facebook or Twitter to learn about important legal news that could affect you or your family member. Or simply contact us by going to WVTM13.com and click on the Attorney's link. Now we know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us and for watching The Attorneys right here on WVTM 13.
Welcome back into The Attorney's Cruise Ship Safety. You're going to be talking about that in just a bit. Talking about travel and how to stay safe as you travel this summer here on The Attorneys. Would love to have you be a part of the conversation. Call, text, email, and join the fun. When we went to break, we were talking about hotels and some really helpful tips on how to stay safe. How's the safest way? Are there any good rules or tips on how to safely choose a hotel for you and your family in terms of location or proximity to interstate? Any sort of tips along that line?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I'll let Drew speak for him, but I kind of follow two different processes. One is when I'm traveling, I look at things differently because I'm by myself. Mm-hmm. I'm looking for convenience. I will stay in just about any hotel just because it's something that's going to be convenient to the location that I'm going. Now, when I'm traveling with my family, it's just a different
right.
deal. I look a lot of times there are so many sites you can search, Chicago, Illinois hotels, and there are so many different sites that you can go to, and Travelocity and Orbitz and all these sites. They don't just have a starring system, and I rely on those starring systems because it tells me if something's a 1-star versus a 4-star. I understand there's going to be a price breaking difference, but there's also going to be a difference in the location and the quality and the safety. And so I also look at the reviews. And people can post reviews, and they can post, because it's not a Holiday Inn site, it's a Travelocity site.
Right.
People post legitimate reviews. And sometimes the reviews are as simple as, I didn't like the service there. But sometimes the reviews are, it was not well lit, it was a dangerous area, be careful. And those are things you can look at, I think. Is there anything that you do other than that kind of stuff?
No, like you said, the reviews usually are the best way for me to determine whether or not it's somewhere I'm going to want to stay and feel safe. Also, like I said, the Google Street View can help you out a good bit as to give you an idea of the area surrounding the hotel.
Is there national, more prominent names? Is there an advantage to choosing, a name you trust, a bigger operation versus something a little smaller in terms of safety, and if something goes wrong, kind of a protocol there?
Yeah, I think so, and it's these hotels brand themselves, right? And so it's kind of like a Chevron. When you pull up to a Chevron or a BP, they look awfully similar as far as colors, as far as the lighting, etc. And there's a reason, for example, gas stations are lit up like Christmas trees at night, right? Because light equals safety. And so the same thing is true with hotel chains. They're branding too. And so you're going to see, in today's world, maybe not 15 years ago, but today, Holiday Inn Express is going to look real similar. Hampton Inn is going to look real similar. They're going to have the same lighting in the parking lot. They're going to have the same colors. The buildings are going to be built similar to each other. The Ramadas are going to be similar to the Hiltons. So I do think, to answer your question specifically, I think that there is a benefit to finding a hotel that has a significant brand and a common and consistent brand to help protect yourself. You know, David, one of the things that our firm unfortunately sees is we see some serious cases related to hotels that aren't doing it the right way, where they're not well lit and they're in high crime areas, even in our Birmingham metro area, where people have been abducted, people have been raped, people have been murdered, and we have had suits like that we have litigated. Those are terrible circumstances and suits, but a lot of it probably could have been prevented if the people at the hotel had done what they were supposed to, like, for example, security guards. Once I mean, does a hotel have a duty to have a security guard? That's a question we always get with shows like this. The answer is no. However, if you undertake to have a security guard, you have a duty to use the security guard properly. He has to do the certain things that you would expect him to do, like monitoring the parking areas, monitoring whatever closed circuit television they have, making sure that if there's a problem with a guest that he's investigating that. And so, you know, that's one of those things that if you do see a security guard, they have an obligation, responsibility to handle themselves.
Switching gears a bit, a question here about summer camps. A lot of kids over the summer are going to be hitting the road and shipping them off for a week. How's a way to ensure the safety of your child as they head to camp?
Let you hit that.
You know, it's a lot of the same ways you ensure your safety in other scenarios. Do your research. Research about the camp. What sort of activities are your kids going to be doing? What sort of protocols do they have as far as their hiring and training of the camp counselors and things of that nature? You oftentimes hear, you know, unfortunately with some of the camps, the relationships develop between the campers and some of the camp counselors. The camp has an obligation to do certain things as far as background checks on the people they employ. So you want to follow up with the camp, make sure they're doing the things they need to be doing to protect your kids.
Yeah, I think that's right. And, you know, there are a lot of families that camp today. I know we have been known to do that and love it, and my kids love it. And so, you know, there are certain things you can do when you're camping to ensure your safety. One of the things that people need to recognize is when you go to some of these state parks and some of these national parks, they're fun, but they can also be dangerous. And you know, national parks have a lot of immunity-based defenses to the extent that something goes wrong. In fact, I just saw on the news in the last 10 days about a group in Yellowstone that was mauled by a bobcat. And you know, that's certain things just can happen. You need to have your guard up when you're going in those national parks and even in those state parks that we have in Alabama to protect yourself. And if something does go wrong, and you need something evaluated, talk with someone that understands that type of the area of law and understands what how to evaluate those cases and how to assess whether they're immunity defenses or not.
All right. What about, we saw the firm fact about cruise ships. Let's talk about those. There are some great deals. Every TV show is kind of blitzed with these cruise ships. They're pushing hard. What do we need to know to be safe if we're taking a cruise?
You know, obviously, again, do your research on the cruise line. There's been a lot of publicity in the last 2 or 3 years with some of these cruise ships and cruise lines.
They've become nightmares.
Stories. You got a whole boat that's being quarantined because everybody got sick, that sort of thing. So do your research. Make sure you're getting on a reputable cruise line. If you are injured on the cruise line, there are certain things you need to know about basically your contract with the cruise line. When you buy that ticket, you enter into a contract with them. And it changes some things for you in pursuing compensation for any injury or illness that you suffer while you're there. One of the things you see in a lot of these cruise line contracts is a forum selection clause. You're going to be forced to file your suit in a certain venue. You've probably also already pre-agreed to the body of law that's going to control your case. And there are some changes in the statutes as far as presenting a claim that you have to be aware of that it will be contained within that contract. There's some notice requirements, much the way there are notice requirements with some of the state and governmental immunity issues. So there's things you need to know about your cruise before you get on it.
Yeah, and as Drew was talking about, short statute of limitations, so you're going to have to quickly notify the cruise ship, put them on notice to potentially file to the extent that something has gone wrong. When we come back, because I know we're about to go to break, I want to talk about pools. Pools in general and how pools are regulated, backyard pools all the way up to pools that we have in public areas, at camps, etc.
Okay.
Let's talk about that. That's kind of an important issue.
All right, and we'll do that whenever we come back. The final segment of the attorneys. Just time enough for you to get your question into us. Call, text, email. Also find the firm. If you search them on Facebook, you'll find them there. And on Twitter, it's Hollis_Wright. Stay tuned. The final segment of the attorneys coming right up.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis Wright. If you've ever served on a jury, you may have wondered why there are gaps in the evidence you're given at trial. In today's Legal 4-in-1, we're answering the question, is there insurance to pay the verdict? Know this, just because the lawyers never mention insurance in a trial, it doesn't mean there is not insurance to pay the verdict. Rule 4-in-1 of the Alabama Rules of Evidence states this: evidence that a person was or was not insured against liability is generally not admissible or allowed to be discussed at trial in front of the jury. The reason for the rule is simple. A jury could award more money in a case if they knew the defendant had insurance to pay for it. But the reality in our state is this: in almost all lawsuits that get to a trial, insurance is there to pay judgments awarded by the jury. For example, all automobiles in Alabama are required to have liability insurance. Coverage can range from $25,000 up to $1 million in these cases. In theory, all car crash cases that get to trial should have insurance available to pay any verdict awarded in the case. Trucks have to carry anywhere from $750,000 to $5 million worth of insurance. Unfortunately, you'll never hear that during the trial. Even in medical malpractice cases, the doctor has liability insurance to help pay a judgment. That's something you won't hear during trial because the rules just don't allow that testimony. Yet almost all judgments against a doctor involve liability insurance. Please remember, your call, email, or text to the attorneys is free. All of us at Hollis Wright want to help answer your questions on real issues you face. Remember, a competent lawyer will respond to every question you send in. That's our promise and pledge to you.
Welcome back into the attorneys. I love this show because it always covers things that you get so excited about hitting the road for travel that sometimes you forget some of these great tidbits. So helpful information. Love have you being a part. Call, text, email. A few minutes remaining here in our show. We've covered a lot of ground. How about the pools, whether it be a community pool or the pool at camp or hotel pools? Talk to us about pool safety.
Yeah, you know, we unfortunately have handled more pool drowning cases than I care to even think about. I mean, it's an area of the law that we have an expertise in, and it's unfortunate the number of drownings that happen and near drownings that happen. You know, whether you're whether you have a pool in your backyard or whether or not you're at a hotel or at camp, pools have certain responsibilities, and the managers and the owners of those pools do. And there's a whole area of the law. We could really do a show just on this issue of pool safety. But in short, how to protect yourself, a couple things. Number one, I think you want to put yourself in a circumstance where you are in a pool that is clear. Water turbidity is a significant issue where you can have circumstances where you can only see a few feet under the water and then you lose sight of people after that. And the pool may look clean to you, but when you get in, you look down and you can't see your feet. That's a danger area. That is be very careful, because if something is to happen to you and you're underneath this layer of silt that you can't really see until you're under the water, it's very difficult to find people. And we've had some pool drowning cases related to that. Pools have an obligation, and managers of the pools have an obligation to provide warnings and to provide safety equipment. And safety equipment will include those hooks that you see to help people that cannot swim rescue someone, as well as the donuts that you see to help individuals. Sometimes you'll see cardiac equipment there. Pools in hotels and in residential areas, country clubs, etc., do not have a duty and obligation to have a lifeguard. They don't. However, if they do have a lifeguard, kind of like a security guard at a hotel, if you have one, they have a duty to be properly trained, to understand how to protect people and how to watch people, and to do the job that they're hired to do. And so, those are just a couple things that people need to think about this summer. And, we don't want to scare people not to have fun this summer, because we all are out there to have fun. It's just be vigilant and be careful to ensure and maintain that you're doing things the right way. And that kind of brings up this issue of insurance. And I know, you've got a case right now related to medevac, but talk a little bit about trip insurance. I saw one of the firm facts, Drew, that I think is significant. I led the show in with it because it's so significant that almost 80% of people that are traveling do not have any form of travel insurance. Talk a little bit about what some of the options are there.
Yeah, it's sort of like that commercial where the guy says you think you're insured for this, but you're really insured for that. Right. I mean, everybody has varying layers of insurance: car, health, life, homeowners. And those cover a wide variety of things, but unfortunately, a lot of times when you go on a trip, there are going to be gaps in that coverage. Things that you're not really sure would be covered, or you think would be covered, but they're not. And you can purchase trip insurance, which will help if somebody gets sick on a trip and you have to cancel it. It'll help you recoup that cost, so you don't have to be out of pocket for the full vacation that you didn't get to take. It'll also, in certain situations, help out with medical bills if you get sick overseas or in a venue where your health insurance doesn't cover you. You can also, if you're going out of the country, you can purchase medevac insurance, which basically, if you need to get back to the United States to have some sort of emergency medical treatment, they're going to have to transport you because of the premium you paid them. Right. So there are some insurance coverage issues you can sort of work through to better prepare. We
talked a little bit about how hotels may only be obligated to provide a certain amount of recoupment or insurance for lost property. The same thing is true with reference to certain forms of hotel issues and lost luggage. So if you lose your luggage on a Delta flight, they may only be obligated to pay $1,000 for that piece of luggage. If you have trip insurance, it may be based on the total value that you can prove of the things that were in there. And people have a lot of expensive stuff that goes in these bags. And so this trip insurance is not expensive. When you talk with a travel agent and you're booking a trip, you can get trip insurance for cheap. Medevac insurance to protect you, to fly you somewhere in the United States or to the United States if you're on a trip and you're sick, needs medical care, right. Or if there's some type of national or natural disaster that can fly you back to the United States. That's not super expensive insurance either, because people just don't use it that much.
Right. Yeah. So. We've covered a lot of ground, a lot of great stuff, but we're just about out of time. A final thought from both of you, and Drew, we'll start with you.
It's preparation. I mean, we're all going out this summer and looking to have a good time on our trips and our vacations and things like that. And these are things you don't really want to think about, but you need to be prepared for. So prepare, do your research, and just make sure that you're prepared for the worst, even though you're expecting the best.
Yeah, and the hope is that people have a really pleasant season on the lake and at the beach and on their vacations and camping. If something doesn't go right, don't be afraid to contact somebody. A lot of lawyers will handle these cases on contingency, which means you don't have to pay anything to have your case evaluated. If you think somebody did it the wrong way, if you don't feel like you were treated fairly, or there's some significant injury or issue that happened because of somebody else's responsibility, don't be afraid to contact somebody and at least get the case evaluated. Ultimately, the answer that we give to a lot of clients is, I'm sorry, but that's not a suit that can be filed. Thanks so much for calling. Let us help you in the future if we can. But you never know unless you get the case evaluated. So hopefully people will have a great, incredible summer. But if they don't, we want to make sure that there are folks there to help and protect and kind of lead, guide them, direct them through the process.
Yeah, if that dream vacation becomes a nightmare due to negligence, there are options.
No question.
Good stuff, fellas. Thanks so much.
Good to see you.
Great
Happy travels this summer.
Let's hit the road. It's time, isn't it? Hey, thanks so much for being with us. Here's how you can continue to contact the firm of Hollis Wright. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We'll see you next week right here on The Attorneys.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright.